Some Terraria weapons are designed with one purpose in mind: to take down as many enemies as possible in the shortest time. And while there are a bunch of brilliant options for this in early hard mode, like the Shadow Flame Knife, Uzi, and Life Drain, it's sometimes nice to have a secondary weapon to deal damage in the background while you focus on your main target. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the few support class weapons that you probably never even knew existed. I'm talking about the Clinger Staff. This weapon finds itself in a rather strange place, as despite being positioned relatively early in progression, its unique functionality can remain useful even till late game. But before we jump into it, did you know we're actually less than 5,000 subs away from hitting the big 100k, which is absolutely unbelievable. So if you enjoy my videos, it'd be amazing to have you part of this milestone. Anyway, let's see how you get this thing. The Clinger Staff is a corrupt biomimic drop, meaning it can be obtained right after defeating the Wall of Flesh. All you need to do is head to your underground corruption and build a simple little layer farm so you have a higher chance of mimics spawning. You don't have to go too crazy with this, just enough to make life easier. It shouldn't be long until one shows up, and when you're ready, engage it from a distance using a weapon like the Crystal Serpent. Now, biomimics are quite difficult to take out at this stage of the game, as they deal a ton of damage. But don't worry, as there is another way. While you're down there, by just collecting 15 Souls of Night from all the other corruption enemies, you can craft a Key of Night at a workbench and place it in a chest to summon one wherever you like. In an open space, the fight is much easier, and with only a 20% drop rate, hopefully you'll get your hands on the Clinger Staff in no time. Okay then, let's see what it can do. As mentioned, the Clinger Staff is a support class weapon, meaning it's something you use once, switch back to your primary, and forget about. Basically, the staff will generate a 15-tile high wall of Cursed Flame, which deals damage and inflicts the Cursed Inferno debuff to any enemy it touches. To be fair, the DPS is quite impressive for early hard mode, but you have to remember that it's unlikely an enemy will deal consistent damage due to the knockback. So let's see how it does against actual enemies. Against the massive line of mummies, it actually kind of blew me away, as while I knew it dealt knockback, I didn't know it was completely impenetrable. Literally, no matter what I threw at the wall, nothing could get through. And as the mummies continued to be aggroed, all they do is walk to their death without the player being in any danger whatsoever. Even against more powerful high HP targets, the Cursed Wall just absolutely deletes these mimics. And what's crazy is, the wall lasts for about 5 minutes, meaning if you're indoors, you can pretty much just forget about one whole side of your screen. I found this most effective in places like the dungeon, and is definitely a weapon worth bringing when you're farming for post-Plantera loot. Even if the damage falls off, its crowd controlling ability is unmatched. And this got me thinking, what about the Old One's army? And as it turns out, it's completely broken. By just placing it next to the portal, I essentially turned it into a one-sided invasion. The knockback is just that good. Now of course, in 90% of cases, it's pretty hopeless against bosses, apart from one exception. Yep, spot on, the Destroyer. Basically, if a weapon has the ability to infinitely pierce, this boss is a complete joke, and if you're able to catch it during its spawning phase, you can deal ludicrous amounts of damage, almost killing it in only a few seconds. I'm sure if you lined it up perfectly, you'd be able to defeat the Destroyer in only one Cursed Wall, which, come to think of it, might make it the only weapon in the game that can defeat the Destroyer in a single click. But I could be wrong. So, the Clinger Staff for me is one of these weapons that has very few downsides, and unlike most reviews, due to it being a support weapon, I see no reason not to recommend getting this thing in your playthrough. I could even imagine it being useful during the pillars to some extent, as the knockback will always be handy. What do you think? Could the Clinger Staff be worth picking up on your next playthrough? Thanks for watching. For more Terraria content like this, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.